The streets of Delhi were alive with honking rickshaws, sizzling food stalls, and the chatter of evening crowds. But for Rohit Mehra, the noise was just background static. His eyes were fixed on the last document he had signed earlier that day, papers handing over the keys to his once thriving office. Just 2 years ago, Rohit had been at the top. His textile export business was booming, with clients across Asia and Europe. He had an office on the 12th floor, a sleek car, and employees who greeted him with respect every morning. But one bad investment, a global market crash, and a few dishonest partners were enough to bring it all down. Within months, his empire crumbled. Clients vanished, banks called in loans, and his accounts were drained. By the time the dust settled, he had nothing left, no savings, no business, and no employees. The lowest point. One evening, he sat in his small rented apartment, staring at the ceiling fan. His wife, Ananya, placed a simple dinner of dal and roti before him. "We'll manage," she said softly. "How?" he asked bitterly. "I've gone from making crores to barely paying rent. People who used to shake my hand now cross the street to avoid me." Ananya reached across the table, holding his hand. "You haven't lost everything, Rohit. You still have your mind, your health, and me. That's enough to start again. A humble beginning." The next morning, Rohit walked past a crowded street where a man sold hot parathas from a cart. The aroma of ghee and spices filled the air, and customers queued eagerly. It struck him, he didn't need millions to start something. He just needed an idea, courage, and consistency. That evening, he told Ananya, "I'm going to start a food stall." She looked surprised. "From textiles to cooking?" "I know it's small," he said, "but it's honest work. And it's a start." With the last 15,000 Indian rupees he had, he bought a second-hand cart, a gas stove, and ingredients. He learned recipes from his mother, perfected his own chutneys, and started selling stuffed parathas at a busy street corner. On his first day, he stood in the heat, wiping sweat from his forehead as people walked past without stopping. Doubts gnawed at him. Was this really what his life had come to? Then, a young student bought a potato paratha. "Bia, this is amazing," he said, returning the next day with 2 friends. Word spread. Soon, people came not just for the food but for the warmth with which Rohit greeted them. He remembered every customer's name, cracked jokes, and served each plate as if it were for a guest in his own home. Within 6 months, his small stall was making enough to hire 1 helper. Within a year, he saved enough to open a small shop named Mehra's Tandoor. When customers asked about his journey, he never hid the truth. "I lost everything once," he'd say with a smile. "But that fall taught me the value of humility, hard work, and starting small." His honesty and consistency attracted attention. A local food blogger wrote about his story, and within weeks, he had lines outside his shop every evening. 5 years later, Mehra's Kitchen became a popular chain across the city, with 10 outlets and dozens of employees. One afternoon, as he walked into his busiest outlet, Rohit noticed a young man sitting alone, head down, a resignation letter in his hand. He looked just like Rohit had years ago, lost, broken. Rohit sat across from him and asked, "Bad day?" The young man nodded. "I've lost my job. I don't know where to start." Rohit smiled gently. "Start anywhere. Start small. I sold parathas on the street after running a multi-crore company. Today, that stall is this restaurant chain. If you wait for the perfect plan, you'll never begin. But if you start with what you have, you'll grow beyond what you imagined." The young man looked at him in disbelief. "That was you?" Rohit nodded. "Yes. And I promise, one day, you'll tell your own story of rising after the fall. Moral: your greatest failure can become your greatest turning point if you have the courage to start again.